This video is made with generous donations from amazing furries, just like you.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to class, and welcome to the Fur Horde. The Fur Horde. Sorry if the video's a bit blown out. The sun is coming through the window, but unfortunately I can't move this. So it's just how it's gonna have to be today, I'm afraid. So welcome back to class. Today is the long-awaited deep dive into furs. I will be starting off by covering like where to buy furs and which ones will be best for your fursuit creation. As always, there is a additional video to this going more in depth into things like stretch fur, custom orders, like textured fur, and all of that kind of stuff, as well as more unique sources like AliExpress and local suppliers as well. And that is up right now, so if you're keen, please go check it out. Link will be down in the description. It is available for all tiers. With that out of the way, let's get into today's lesson. Back in my day, the places we could buy fur were very different. We had a lot of ones that don't exist anymore, and there wasn't even nearly as wide a variety of color options and textures as we have readily available nowadays. I remember when light gray fur was like gold, and like you would defend that shit with your life, fist fight people for it. But fortunately now we have a really wide range of suppliers and furs, and from fandom and non-fandom suppliers, so let's cover a couple of those in today's lesson. Definitely the most common suppliers we use are Big Z Fabrics and Howl Fabrics. These both stock very similar furs, although I suspect that those fabrics are from different manufacturers. We also have things like Fursuit Supplies, Can Fur, and many other fandom-based suppliers. If you are keen to find out which fur suppliers may be local to you, be sure to check out this website made by Go For It, which shows like where it's a database of suppliers for everything from foam to furs to pretty much anything, patterns as well. It's a really great resource, so please be sure to check it out. It's really underappreciated and it needs to be told about, so go visit it. It's good. But for today, we're just gonna stick with comparing the basic ones we get from Big Z and Howl, as these are the ones that I do all my orders from, and they are USA based, so keep that in mind for shipping if you live international. Let's start with the first most commonly used fur, Luxury Shag. Now this fabric was originally manufactured by Shannon Fabrics, although I think Shannon specifically has discontinued that range. But this is Luxury Shag from Howl Fabrics. However, if you were to order it from Big Z, they call it Eco Shag, assuming again difference in manufacturers. Let's pull this out. We have fabric, hooray. Now this fur is quite long. The pile is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. The pile is the length of the fur. It's fairly dense and it comes in a really wide variety of colors. So, you know, luxury shag, luxury shag, luxury shag, luxury shag, luxury shag, okay, it's everywhere, many colors. As a fursuit maker, this is your bread and butter. You will use it for pretty much anything and everything, and it is so easy to match colors to your project. However, there is a few things I would like to mention about this fur and in terms of quality. Let's grab this one. Sometimes we receive a dodgy batch of luxury shag, which has a tendency to bald over time, and the way this can be predetermined is by checking the backing of your fur and seeing how solid it is. So fur fibers are wafted into this polyester fabric, and the density of that wafting is a great indicator about how likely fur is to shed in the future. So if you look at this one, I don't remember where I got this from, I think this one's pretty old. Thank you, sunlight. If you look at this one, you can see that it's not quite solid, it's kind of patchy. I'll grab a different one. In the case of this candy pink, you can see it's got stripes, which is weird. Don't know what that's about. But if we get out our butterscotch, you can see pretty solid. And whilst luxury shag is the bread and butter of fursuit making, the quality I find can vary quite a lot. Now this isn't the company's fault, this isn't the seller's fault, it's just human error, manufacturing error. It's fairly common, and it would mean that they would go out of business because they couldn't sell it. So just keep in mind, and this can be prevented with a little bit of use a little bit of diluted white glue and just spray it on the back. That helps kind of set the fibers. Or you can use something called Fray Stop, like I said, it's a spray that just kind of helps stiffen up that backing and reduce the risk of shedding. Now, since it is quite long, it will need to be shaved for shorter areas like faces or paw pads. And look, it can really vary on how easily it shaves, because luxury shag can fight you on that, but a bit of heat treatment can go a long way. Now, luxury shag can age a little bit weirdly, and as mentioned before, it can bald over time depending on the quality of the batch. As fur tends to age, it tends to kind of clump together and kind of get this like ratty look about it. You can see the difference here. Like, look at that, kind of looks a bit all stuck together. However, this can be mitigated with just a little bit of a blow dry and a brush. That will fix it, however, it's gonna need constant maintenance pretty much. And it's perfectly natural, again, no one's fault, it's just something we have to keep in mind. And that brings us to our second variety of fur, teddy. Now Big Z makes their own variety of teddy called, I think it's half shag or short shag. I'll put it up which one it is on the screen. It's kind of like luxury shag, but it's shorter, so it's about half the pile length. Now the difference between Big Z's and Howl's in this context is Howl Fabrics teddy has this kind of silky, smooth, laminated look to it. And whereas Big Z is kind of closer to a half length of luxury shag. Both are fine, both are way easier to maintain and both look really good. The only difference is you probably need to give the Big Z half shag a little bit more maintenance and brushing because it will tend to act like luxury shag over time. The finished look of this fur, it's very nice. It's very sleek, like smooth. It looks short but not like creepy skin tight. And it's definitely one of my favorite furs to use in terms of the finish. I don't think I've ever gotten a bad batch of like teddy or half shag for that matter. So I can really recommend this. It's really high quality and it's great for your first project. It's so good. It shaves absolutely gorgeous. The thicker the fibers, especially on the teddy, means that the finish is gonna be a lot cleaner when you shave and it's gonna be a lot easier to get looking neat. However, because of its length, I obviously wouldn't recommend it for something like inner ears or like cheek fluffs or long, flowy, long tail things, obviously. All right, now that brings us to our third fur for today, Beaver. Beaver is a super short, it's probably about, how long is this pile? Centimeter and a half, like half an inch, maybe less, quarter of an inch, I don't know. About, it's about a centimeter in pile. It's really short, really soft, really silky. It is my favorite fur to use for things like faces and paws. I've always had this fur arrive in really good nick, really high quality stuff. The downside of this, it doesn't come in many colors. We're getting there. It's starting to expand. We are seeing a wider range of it produced nowadays, when back in the day we only had like 2, maybe 3 if you were lucky. But it's really good to see that we're getting it in more colors. Fur manufacturers, please make every single luxury shag color in this so I don't have to shave, because shaving makes me want to cry a little bit. And this fur does not need to be shaved, at least before you put it on the head. However, once it's glued to the face, I do tend to shorten it down just a little bit, but not everybody does that. That's up to them. It does require brushing, despite its short length, so don't be fooled. You have to brush the short areas of your suit too. It does require brushing despite its short length, or else the shave that you give on it is going to look a little bit messy and uneven. So make sure you maintain it properly. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, let's talk about fox or Arctic fox or luxury fox or whatever you want to call it. This is a super long, gorgeous fur. Really good for things like inside of ears, the bottoms of tails, and it's awesome motion. It likes to kind of like fly around as you move it. I love using it for cheek fur as it gives those really fluffy look while still remaining pretty clean. Has the same texture as teddy in terms of the fibers, and it requires less upkeep than the standard luxury shag. However, I would not recommend using this fur on shorter areas, as sometimes the fur backing can be quite sparse. This one looks pretty okay, but a lot of them can have thinner backings and it might not shave as well and you might get some bald spots there. So I recommend using this as an accents only fur. These 4 furs are the main ones that I will use in any given fursuit. So knowing about these 4 should get you by, but let's talk about some other fabrics that I use in suits real quick. Let's talk Minky. Minky is a fabric that isn't unlike fur, but it's closer to fleece. It is super soft. Can I get my camera to focus on it, please? Sure, use the sun, reflection, wow. Fur. It is really soft and often used in children's toys. Oh my God, fur everywhere. We tend to use this for tongues, claws, paw pads, and any other parts that just require short fabrics. Minky is a really challenging fabric to work with as it is quite slippery and it will let you know if your needle is blunt. I find it a bit of a nightmare to work with, but that's just me. But the finishing effects of this fabric is just second to none, so I really wouldn't work with anything else. It can be found from Big Z and Howl, or just as a wide variety of other fabric stores, as this is fairly common. Obviously, you wouldn't really need to shave this as it's not a fur, but it does come in a really wide range of colors, arguably bigger than luxury shag. So you'll pretty much be able to match any color that you have. So definitely something to always keep in your arsenal. There are other kinds of Minky, such as mochi Minky or stretchy Minky, but I'll be covering that more in detail on my Patreon, and the video is available right now, if you can. Go check it out if you haven't. Let's talk about fleece. This is fleece. Focus camera, fleece. Some makers do their entire faces in fleece. It is stretchy, it's got a little bit of stretch to it, and depending on what you use it for, it's pretty easy to hide seams. A lot of puppet makers use it because it's quite easy to hide the seams. However, it is an entirely new set of skills, and I can't say it's one that I possess. Only thing to keep in mind with this fabric is that it does pill, which means you get all those weird little lint fabric nipples all over it, and you may have to shave some of those off sometimes. And finally, let's talk about vinyl. This is what we tended to use all the time a long time ago for things like claws, paw pads, anything that we wanted to have like a leather look about it. But nowadays everybody just kind of uses Minky because it's softer, but still a valid option if you can find it. It's kind of like a thin fake leather. It can be a little bit of a challenge to use as it can get stuck underneath your presser foot and your machine might not like to sew it, but just a little bit of baby powder or corn flour will just make it go straight through, no worries. It comes in a variety of colors and it's pretty durable. Just make sure you get the thicker stuff. You shouldn't feel a difference between the plasticky outside and the backing. They shouldn't feel like they're gonna separate. Or else the like pleathery stuff, this stuff, will flake off eventually over time. It's really not that durable. And that goes the same with the stretchy variety. That is like, it will stick, but sometimes it doesn't stick to glue. So if you're using it and you're gluing it on, the glue will come off pretty much straight away unless you use a specialized glue. So just keep that in mind. And I think that is everything for today's lesson. In the next lesson, I will be covering foams and how to identify which ones are appropriate for your fur suit making, as well as some good links to some sources for you guys. If you're keen to learn more about different fur types, how to find them locally or even from places like AliExpress wholesale suppliers, that video is available right now for my Patreons from all tiers from $1 a month, so to be sure to check it out if you're keen. Your homework for this week is to create a shopping cart on your preferred fursuit supply website and see how much it's going to cost you. As a rough guide for how much you'll need, a head you'll need about 2 meters in total, a partial will need about 3 or 4, depending on how big of a partial it is, and a bodysuit can use anywhere between 5 to 7 meters of fabric, even more if you're probably on the taller side or it's a more complex suit, so guesstimate based on your size and the complexity. Or just literally replace meters with yards if you're using the Freedom units, same pretty much like by 5 centimeters, so yards is fine. And be sure to count shipping into the cost of things as well, because that can get high really quick. And thank you so much for joining me for today's Maker Masterclass, and I will see you guys in the next lesson. Bye now.